Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Force Strategy Gaming, taking a look at a Protoss strategy today. Now in this particular replay, our Protoss player here is Ogre Tob, and our Protoss opponent is Saki. So this is a mirror matchup, Protoss versus Protoss. And what we're going to be looking at today is the strength of going for really fast Colossus. For those who don't know, Colossus are really strong in a Protoss versus Protoss matchup. The reason being is that your Protoss opponent has really no strong counter to Colossus other than more Colossus. They basically need Colossus in order to counter your Colossus. So what does this mean? This means if you can put yourself in an advantage numbers wise as far as your Colossus count, then you're going to be in an advantage in any fight, in any given fight. So what we're going to be looking to do is we're going to be going for, opening up with a Gateway, Cybernetics Core, Robo, but instead of getting out of that Robo, instead of going for early Immortals, which you'll see a lot of players do, we're going to instead skip those Immortals, save those resources, get our Robotics Bay out, and then try to get those fast Colossus on the board. So very, very effective strategy if you can manage to defend yourself early. So this is going to involve a few key things. It's going to involve scouting your opponent and making sure that you have some sort of a defense early game from a push, because if your opponent goes for those early Immortals, if your opponent goes for those early Immortals and pushes out against you and you don't have any sort of a defense, then you can be in a lot of trouble. So there's a few ways to protect against this. First and foremost, obviously scouting, seeing if they're coming or not. The other thing too is to try to go a little bit lighter on the Stalker count and a little bit heavier on the Zealots. Now what's the reason behind this? Well, Immortals are very strong against Stalkers, but they don't really do so well against Zealots. So if you have a stronger Zealot count to Stalkers, then you're going to do better against someone who goes for fast Immortals and pushes out against you. Now in this particular game, there is actually no push coming from our Protoss opponent up until the big fight when we're pitting both of our armies against each other, but in case in your games that does happen, just realize that the purpose is, the reason we're getting a heavier Zealot count is to defend ourselves against a earlier push with Immortals, Stalkers, Sentries, and Zealots. If we go Zealot heavy, we're going to do better to counter those Immortals. So starting off, very basic build order, beginning with a 9 Pylon, following it up with a 12 Gateway, 14 Assimilator, and 17 Cybernetics Core. Very standard stuff thus far, also seeing this 19 Assimilator as well. As soon as this Cybernetics Core comes up, we're going to be getting the Warp Gate research out of that, and that should be at about 22 supply, basically. We're going to be starting out with a Stalkers early game defense and getting that Warp Gate research right away. Should be seeing that any moment now, so there we go. Now looking in our Protoss opponent space, we're seeing pretty much a mirror of what we have, pretty much the same thing. We see these two gases, we see that Cybernetics Core, the Gateway, very standard. There's no 2-gate coming, we don't have to worry about anything silly like that. We can stay in for just a moment longer. We're checking the outside of the base for any hidden tech or anything like that to see if he's got another Gateway somewhere. But we do want to leave soon because we do know a Stalker's coming out with the Cybernetics Core up at the moment. Back in the base here, not much has changed. Have that Warp Gate research coming. We started off with this initial Stalker as early game defense, and then we're going to be following it up with Zealot. Now again, we're going to be going Zealot heavy to kind of defend against any early Immortal push, because realize, if he pushes out with Immortals and we have a lot of Stalkers, he's going to do very well. So the goal in what we're doing, again, we're trying to get this Robotics Facility up so that we can get the Robotics Bay up as quickly as possible and start pumping out those Colossus. Because like I said in the beginning of the game, if you really think about the matchup, what does Protoss have against Colossus that does well? Yeah, I can't think of anything either. It's only Colossus. You need other Colossus. Phoenixes are terrible damage against them. Yes, they're going to hit them without the Colossus responding. All you need to do is target fire them with your Stalkers. Someone might say something like Void Rays. Not so much. I mean, it's not really a viable option, to be honest. So yeah, it's just such a strong unit in this matchup that if you can try to get it out quickly, whatever means necessary, if you can get it out quickly, then you're going to be in a strong position, as long as you can defend early game while you're teching up to it. As with all teching strategies, as with all strategies that involve trying to get something higher tech earlier in the game, you're going to be vulnerable early on, so you need to be able to defend. Now, of course, what we're going to be doing is getting out an Observer sometime in the near future. We should be seeing that coming out any moment now. And obviously we're using that for scouting purposes to have a good idea of when and if he's pushing out. Now we can see here at this point, like I said, we skipped that early Immortal. You can see there's no Immortal here. And we're getting that Robotics Bay. And again, the purpose is to get those Colossus out as fast as possible so we can outnumber him in our Colossus count. So we got that as far as timing is concerned. That Robotics Bay came down at 34 supply. Also, we saw the second gateway here at 31 supply and a 35 supply getting this third gateway. So off of one base, we can expect to maintain about 4 buildings. That's why the 4-gate build exists. It's not a 5-gate, it's a 4-gate. You can maintain it about 4 buildings, 4 production buildings. So when we're going for this robotics facility, since we're not seeing a Stargate or anything, and we're not seeing 2 robotics facilities, we're going to want to get 3 gateways as well. Now, once you expand, you can of course add on to that, get a couple more gateways, get another robotics facility, but now that we're on one base, this is what we're going to be looking at. 3 warp gates and 1 robotics facility. So you can see now that we have this Robotics Bay up, we're going to be coming out with this Colossus. Now, as soon as we can afford it, the next thing we're going to want to do is get that thermal lance research upgraded. Having that extra range on your Colossus really gives them an advantage over ones that don't have the extra range. We started getting that at about 47 supply. So right now, this is kind of the base. This is what we're looking at. We've got 3 gateways. We've got this robotics facility. We're pumping out this Colossus. We've got this thermal lance upgrade. This is like what we've been focused on. This is what the point that we've been trying to get to. And now that we're here, we're just going to try to build up our army. Here's the zealot heavy army that I talked about. If we saw a mortal push coming, these zealots would do pretty well against them. Obviously, we want at least 1 sentry to be able to force field our ramp in case he's pushing with too strong of an army. That buys you time to get that Colossus out. Now, scouting inside of his base, we want to see, in respect to ourselves, where our opponent is. Now, we do see that he's trying to get some Colossus as well. We do see this Robotics Bay. But if you noted, as we passed through with our observer, what we saw here was an Immortal. And I'm actually going to, I don't think it's going back, so I'm going to show you here. We saw that Immortal. Seeing that Immortal, we know for sure that he's behind in Colossus count. He simply could not have gone out a Colossus as fast as us in going for this Immortal because this costs Vespian gas, and that sets him back in the time it takes him to get this Colossus out. So once we saw that Immortal, we knew for sure at that point that we were ahead in the fact that we had our Colossus out faster than him. And as long as you continue to produce them, as long as you continue to mass them up at a steady pace, you don't wait in between building your Colossus, you don't get supply blocked, nothing silly like that happens, you're going to be ahead of your opponent at that point when it comes to your ground army. So going to be trying to push out at this point, seeing what we can do. Now this observer coming back out, and here we go, confirming the fact that we're ahead in Colossus count. Again, that Immortal just set him too far behind, and we have 2. We've got a 3rd en route, just about 50% finished right now. So yeah, just going to keep pumping out probes. Like always, want to constantly make workers. Keep using those warp gates whenever they're off cooldown, and keep coming out with those Colossus. And if you push out right about this timing, if you know you have this advantage, it's a good time to push out. Now, something I want to note about here, we do see this Pylon kind of spotting the edge of his base, so Saki knows when any push is coming. You notice that pulling our Colossus back and just engaging with the Stalkers. The purpose in that is we don't want to give away our army size. We don't want to let him know earlier than he has to what we have for units. So just engaging with the Stalkers, we don't care if he knows we have Stalkers, we just don't want him to know that we have these 3 Colossus out. That may cause him to play defensively, may cause him to push back into his base, try to force field us out. Obviously, we could just walk over it with the Colossus, but he may try to buy some time to get more units. So now finally engaging, going to be pulling those zealots ahead. You want to make sure that you grab them and pull them ahead so that they're fighting in the front line where they belong. And you can just see here, it doesn't really matter what he does. If we outnumber him in Colossus, there's such a huge advantage. And because we were so zealot heavy, you saw that his Immortal pretty much did nothing because he was target firing. He wasn't target firing these Stalkers because he couldn't reach them. They were too far behind. The zealots were in the front. So it makes that early Immortal that he got pretty much useless. And it's so strong. The Colossus as a unit is so strong in this matchup if you can outmass your opponent when they get Colossus. And that's really the focus of this video. That's the focus and the thing I wanted to show you guys. If you're having trouble in your PvP matchups, this is a strategy that you can try, and it should be quite effective for you as long as it's done properly. Now at this point, we're going to start to go Stalker heavy, and yeah, that's pretty much it. He calls it a good game. So going back in the base here, you can see a few things that I want to note. At this point too, when pushing out like this, it wouldn't be a bad idea to get some sort of a transition going. Maybe try to save up so you got that 400 point, and then go ahead and drop a Nexus. It's always a good idea when you push out. That's always a good time to drop an expansion. It buys you time to get it up. So let's just go over that build order real quick one more time. Start off with a 9 Pylon. Follow that up with a 12 Gateway and 14 Assimilator. Now at 17 supplies, when we saw that Cybernetics Core, 19 supply, we got that second Assimilator. 22 supply, that Warp Gate research started. 27 supply, saw that Robotics Facility. 31 supply, getting the second Gateway. 34 supply, Robotics Bay came out. 35 supply was that 3rd and final Gateway. And then 47 supply, we started getting that Thermal Lance upgrade. So the keynotes here, we're taking up for the fast Colossus because it is so strong in this matchup. That's definitely going to be the unit we want to get. Negating that early game Immortal to buy us enough Vespian gas to get out this Robotics Bay and get that Colossus out faster than our opponent. We size up their army with scouting with our observer, and when we see we outnumber them and we're just in a stronger position, that's when we decide to push out. And again, like I said, when you push out, it's also going to be a good time to expand as well. So once again, guys, this has been Force Strategy Gaming. If you guys like our videos and you like what we're doing here, please do go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Keep watching and keep owning, guys. Strong force, and we start at the front of our base, just warp in a sentry or two, put some force fields down. This is going to buy you the time to counterattack, and then ideally take him out when he's trying to be aggressive towards you. So as you can see, drop some proxy pylons, a good idea. Constantly use that warp gate research whenever it's up. They're going to keep your minerals nice and low.